Welcome to Democratic Learning Services Training. I am Elsa. Hope you enjoy today's class. Let's start.
We'll start off with a few quick tips for teaching in a classroom.
Vidokezo vya kufundisha darasani.
In general, it helps to slow down your speech, to pay attention to your body language, your tone of voice, and to make eye contact.
Kwa ujumla husaidia kupunguza kasi ya usemi wako na kuzingatia lugha ya mwili wako, sauti yako na kutazamana machoni.
Check in and engage your students by asking questions and by inviting questions from them. This way you will notice if they are interested and if they are actually learning. In our courses we try to have lots of opportunities for discussions. That way people engage by linking the learning to their own experiences.
Washirikishe wanafunzi wako kwa kuuliza maswali na kuwaalika maswali kutoka kwao. Kwa njia hii utaona ikiwa wanavutiwa na ikiwa wanajifunza kweli. Katika kozi zetu tunajaribu kuwa na fursa nyingi za majadiliano. Kwa njia hiyo watu hujihusisha kwa kuunganisha mafunzo na uzoefu wao wenyewe.
But how can we know if our students are learning? Let's talk about some options. Any suggestions? You can put your hand up and speak when invited or write some ideas in the chat box. So how can we know if our students are learning?
Lakini tunawezaje kujua ikiwa wanafunzi wetu wanajifunza? Hebu tuzungumze kuhusu chaguo fulani. Mapendekezo yoyote. Unaweza kuinua mkono wako na kuzungumza unapoalikwa au kuandika mawazo fulani kwenye kisanduku cha gumzo. Lakini tunawezaje kujua ikiwa wanafunzi wetu wanajifunza?
Let's pause and discuss. It is interesting to see where the word facilitator comes from. Have a look at this slide. In the next section I am going to share with you some of the most useful learning theories we teach trainee teachers at university.
Nitashiriki nanyi baadhi ya nadharia za kujifunza zinazovutia zaidi tunazofundisha walimu waliofunzwa chuo kikuu.
Keep an open mind and see if you find this interesting. I think it is very powerful to understand how people learn. It helps us in our own lives and it helps us understand other people better.
Kuwa na mawazo wazi na uone ikiwa unaona hii inavutia. Nadhani ni nguvu sana kuelewa jinsi watu wanavyojifunza. Inatusaidia katika maisha yetu wenyewe na inatusaidia kuelewa watu wengine vizuri zaidi.
Talking about assessment can cause very negative reactions. That is understandable as we all have bad memories about being tested. One question people do not ask often enough is, why do we test?
Uzoefu wetu wa tathmini mara nyingi huwa hasi, kwa sababu mtihani katika siku maalum hautupi picha halisi ya kile mwanafunzi anajua.
When I worked for the Australian Council for Education Research, there was a strong focus on how we could change how students are tested in the future. The first question was why we test. Simple answers will be to see if students remember the work or if they were listening in class. Those are not good reasons to test. Everyone is different every day. Some days you are able to do some things and other days not. Some days you are very worried or sick. Often you are simply not interested and motivated in learning. We all know people who are really good at writing tests. Sometimes they do not study and don't know much about the work, but they cope very well with stress and are good at taking tests. Other students are hardworking but they really do not function well when doing tests. So standard testing is not a good measurement. Let us consider what we test if keep doing it like we do it now. It is to see a picture of what a student is able to report back in answer to a specific question on a specific day. Is that even helpful?
Tunachopaswa kujaribu ni maendeleo ya kila mwanafunzi katika ujifunzaji wao wenyewe. Kwa hivyo tunapaswa kuwajaribu wanafunzi dhidi ya ufaulu wao wa awali tu, sio dhidi ya wanafunzi wengine.
Education academics have come to the conclusion that the most important function of testing is measuring the learning that has taken place for each individual. And that means we should not really be testing students against each other, but only against themselves. We want to see our students progress against their own previous progress. So we are looking for improvement. That is quite complicated. And it is still quite tricky to test that as we have lots of students and not many educators. But you will notice that in online learning, for example computer learning and apps such as Duolingo, your progress is measured against your own previous performance. That is the way assessment will be going in future.
Utagundua kuwa katika kujifunza mtandaoni, kwa mfano kujifunza kwa kompyuta na programu kama vile Duolingo, maendeleo yako yanapimwa dhidi ya utendaji wako wa awali. Hivi ndivyo tathmini itakavyokuwa katika siku zijazo.
Now we will look at helping students through giving feedback on their work. This can be in marking their work or in giving them comments in class. How to give functional feedback. Consider the main purpose of giving feedback. What you tell them should empower students to improve their understanding and skills. You need to provide evidence to enable improvement.
Jinsi ya kutoa maoni ya utendaji. Fikiria kusudi kuu la kutoa maoni. Unachowaambia kinapaswa kuwawezesha wanafunzi kuboresha uelewa wao na ujuzi. Unahitaji kutoa ushahidi ili kuwezesha uboreshaji. Kusudi ni kumpa mwanafunzi uwezo wa kuboresha. Kwa hivyo fanya maoni yako kuwa wazi sana na utoe hatua zinazoweza kutekelezeka.
When giving feedback, your purpose is to give the student the ability to improve. Therefore, make your feedback very clear and provide actionable, doable steps.
Toa maoni yanayoendelea ili aweze kusaidia katika kazi. Haisaidii kutoa maoni tu mwishoni wakati kazi imekamilika.
Provide ongoing feedback so the students learn about the process, not just struggle and then find out what they should have done after they did it wrong.
Kuwa maalum katika maoni yako. Eleza kwa uwazi kile unachozungumza. Maoni ya mwanzo yatakuwa ya msingi zaidi. Maoni ya baadaye yanaweza kuwa mahususi zaidi ili mwanafunzi aweze kuyatumia kufanya maendeleo.
Be specific in your comments. That means you have to identify clearly what you are talking about.
Ikiwa unaweza, zungumza juu ya kazi ya kibinafsi ya mwanafunzi, sio tu kwa jumla.
If you can, talk about the student's own individual work, not just in general.
Daima inawezekana kupata kitu chanya cha kusema. Usitoe maoni hasi tu, hiyo haisaidii na motisha.
Make the comments constructive and positive, not negative. There is always something to comment on in a positive way, even if it is just that the student has improved from before.
Fanya maoni yako kuwa ya vitendo. Wape kitu ambacho wanaweza kufanya ili kuboresha kazi au ujuzi wao. Haisaidii kutoa maoni ya jumla kama lazima ufanye vizuri zaidi.
Make your feedback practical. It has to be something they can realistically do to improve their work or skills. It does not help to say, you have to do better.
Fanya kazi katika kujenga uhusiano wa mwalimu na mwanafunzi. Fikiria jinsi ilivyokuwa muhimu kwako kuwa na walimu wa kuunga mkono na wanaokutia moyo. Mtu hamsahau mwalimu huyo.
Feedback is an essential part of the learning process and it builds the relationship between the facilitator and the student. It should show that the facilitator understands the effort the student has put into the task. Perhaps you remember such a time in your own learning journey when a teacher commented on something you did. Showing that you believe in a student's potential and ability goes a long way towards motivating a student who struggles.
Kuwa mkarimu na mvumilivu katika maoni yako. Pumzika ikiwa huna subira.
Always consider how your feedback might make the recipient feel and do not get upset or impatient. Step back from commenting for a short break if you feel yourself getting frustrated. You might want to write down the main words in this slide to remind you when giving feedback. We can pause to allow that. When training teachers, we talk a lot about how to ensure our students understand the new learning content. One of the ways to check that our way of teaching helps maximize learning and understanding is to check it against a theory of understanding called Bloom's taxonomy. This theory was developed a long time ago and new researchers keep changing it, but some elements have remained the same.
Kuangalia viwango vya uelewa. Ubora wa kujifunza hupimwa kwa kuangalia jinsi mtu anaelewa vizuri kile anachopaswa kuwa anajifunza.
When planning a lesson or a set of lessons or a course, the aim should be to progress from one level on this scale of understanding to another level. Each new level of understanding builds on the next one so one's understanding becomes stronger.
Wakati wa kupanga somo au seti ya masomo au kozi, lengo liwe ni kuendelea kutoka ngazi moja kwa kiwango hiki cha uelewa hadi ngazi nyingine. Kila kiwango kipya cha ufahamu hujengwa juu ya kinachofuata ili ufahamu wa mtu unakuwa na nguvu zaidi.
Please pay attention to this next part.
Nitasema sehemu inayofuata kwa Kiswahili, lakini nitafafanua zaidi kwa mifano kwa Kiingereza. Kwenye slaidi tunayo yafuatayo: viwango vya ufahamu, kukumbuka, kuelewa, inatuma, kuchambua, kutathmini, kuunda. Unapofundisha, unataka kiwango cha ufahamu kujifunza kiongezeke.
We'll look at examples. If we have time limitations, we'll ask you to go back and look at this later. In one lesson, you might just test one step, such as understanding, but as you teach further, you want the level of learning to deepen. The first category is remembering. To check this in yourself or in your students, you might ask, what is this? Can I remember it? The second category is understanding. To check it, ask, how does it work? What kind of information is this? Can I repeat it in my own words? Can I recognize it again? The third category is applying. Ask, how will I use this new knowledge? How can I put it into practice? The fourth category is analyzing. Ask, how does this differ from what I already knew about the topic? Does it change anything I thought I knew? Where does it fit into my knowledge of the world or the topic? Do I know who came up with this information? The fifth category is evaluating. Ask, can I trust this information? Is it solid and truthful? Who said it? Is it proven? Is there a hidden agenda? Who gains from this? And the last and sixth category is creating. This is checked by asking oneself, do I understand this well enough to be able to apply the knowledge to solve a problem and to use it in a new situation? Can I teach others how this is relevant and how to apply it in other situations if necessary? To understand the types of knowledge better, we can recap and group it in short as factual knowledge. Understanding the facts and remembering them. Questions: what is it? Can I remember it? Conceptual knowledge. Understanding where it fits in and how it works. Questions: how does it work? Where does it fit in? Procedural knowledge. Understanding how the new knowledge can be used. Questions: how will I use this? How can this be implemented? Metacognitive knowledge. This requires self-knowledge, which is a high form of understanding. Questions: how does this fit in with my own knowledge and skills? How can I adapt it to progress? How can I share this with others to help the group/community? Being able to share the knowledge at its highest level because you truly understand it, you know how it works, where it fits in and how it can be applied to its best possible use, is the ultimate aim.
Lengo kuu ni kuweza kuelewa maarifa vizuri sana ili uweze kuyatumia katika hali mpya na hata kuwafundisha watu wengine kuyatumia.
I want to talk again about metacognition. The word metacognition allows us to express something that was difficult to describe in the past. Understanding our own learning offers us a way to empower learners, including ourselves. It is to make one's own learning visible to oneself. It is when learning becomes a conscious process that the person is aware of. Metacognition means we understand better how we learn. You would have heard people say, "Oh, I forget everything if I do not write it down." Or perhaps, "I prefer to hear an explanation rather than to read it." Or, "I like to draw pictures to help me remember and understand." So metacognition is recognizing and understanding our own learning process. It is very empowering to understand that it is possible and within our reach then to change how we approach our own learning. The awareness of how we learn best gives us an opportunity to use our own experience to do what works for us.
Metacognition ni kutambua na kuelewa mchakato wetu wa kujifunza. Inatia nguvu sana kuelewa kwamba inawezekana na ndani ya uwezo wetu, kubadili jinsi tunavyoshughulikia masomo yetu wenyewe. Ufahamu wa jinsi tunavyojifunza vyema zaidi, hutupatia fursa ya kutumia uzoefu wetu wenyewe kufanya kile kinachofaa kwetu.
As an educator, it is important to model lifelong learning. Be curious, admit when you don't know something, actively seek answers, allow students to learn directly from you by witnessing how you inform yourself, and talk them through it. This shows them an active example of metacognition, insight into our own learning process. And, by the way, talking yourself through the process, self-talk, is a great metacognitive technique to help some learners with elements they find challenging. Encourage it in your students.
Kujizungumza ni mbinu nzuri ya utambuzi ili kuwasaidia baadhi ya wanafunzi na vipengele wanavyopata changamoto. Onyesha wanafunzi wako jinsi ya kuifanya kwa kuifanya mwenyewe.
Teaching allows us to maximize the power of learning in groups. Humans are social beings, we are designed to do tasks in groups, such as families and tribes, and to learn from each other.
Kufundisha huturuhusu kutumia vyema uwezo wetu wa kujifunza katika vikundi. Wanadamu ni viumbe vya kijamii, tumeundwa kufanya kazi katika vikundi, kama vile familia na makabila, na kujifunza kutoka kwa kila mmoja.
Lev Vygotsky was a Russian education researcher who said that people learn best in groups, socially, in which they construct, build, collective knowledge, hence social constructivism. Anyone in the group can add to the knowledge. That makes sense, doesn't it? He also said that the person who knows more than others about that particular skill or topic will be scaffolding, propping up the ones who know less. It is done by supplying bits of information and modeling skills as the task gets more complex. That person won't always be the same one in the group as the task and the challenges change. The person, or persons, who scaffold others is called the K.O, not the knockout, but the knowledgeable other.
Lev Vygotsky alikuwa mtafiti wa elimu wa Kirusi ambaye alisema kwamba watu hujifunza vizuri zaidi katika makundi ya kijamii ambamo hujenga ujuzi wa pamoja, na akaiita ujenzi wa kijamii au social constructivism. Kila mtu katika kikundi anaweza kuongeza maarifa na mtu anayejua zaidi anaweza kusaidia wengine kwa kuwaunga mkono. Tunaita kiunzi hicho sawa na tunachotumia wakati wa kuunda nyumba. Mtu ambaye ana ujuzi muhimu anaitwa mjuzi mwingine, yule anayejua zaidi. Lakini jukumu hilo hubadilika wakati wote. Kwa hivyo sote tunajifunza kutoka kwa kila mmoja. Nitatoa mfano.
Example of social constructivist learning. Let's say we are learning to make fufu and there is no recipe. So the first person, Claire, says she knows how to do this. She says she needs 2 cups of cassava flour, etc. At this point she is the knowledgeable other and the others are learning from her. She is scaffolding them, holding them up, supporting them in their learning. The group looks around, but they do not have oil available. They have no money and the shop is far away. Nayok says he knows where to find oil and he suggests they ask the woman next door to lend them some in exchange for some of the fufu. Nayok is the KO when it comes to making a quick plan to find what they need. He was scaffolding them in coming up with a solution. Now they return to making the recipe and Claire shows them how to get it all ready. Once they want to fry the fufu, Claire sees that there is a primus stove in the classroom and they need to use that. She has not used a primus stove before, but Zawadi has. Zawadi becomes the KO for the next few minutes, priming the stove, lighting it and getting the oil to the right temperature. For that time she is scaffolding Claire and Nayok's learning. Then she hands over to Claire to show them how to fry the puffs. This is a very natural way of learning, and even when there is a teacher in the class, this kind of learning takes place. The last part of learning theory I want to talk about today will also help teachers understand how to help students in their learning is the following.
Kuelewa yafuatayo kunaweza pia kumsaidia mwalimu kuwasaidia wanafunzi wao vyema.
The zone of proximal development, the ZPD, is a concept that makes perfect sense.
Eneo la maendeleo ya karibu, ZPD, ni dhana inayoleta maana kamili.
No surprise that this too was described by Lev Vygotsky. Let's first unpack the term. Zone is an area. Proximal is near or close by. Development needs no explanation. So this means an area of closely situated development.
Hii ina maana eneo la maendeleo lililo karibu.
The theory is that we are best able to learn something if we are just about on the verge of understanding it. For the situation to be perfect to learn something, we need to have all the base blocks in place for the next one to fit on top of those. If we do not yet have the base blocks of knowledge ready, we will not be able to add the new block of knowledge to the structure we are building. Now you'll understand why things sometimes just click. It is when we are in the right zone to learn it. We have all the knowledge required to understand what that next step is. We are also eager to learn the next step, so the motivation is there to learn it.
Nadharia ni kwamba tunaweza kujifunza jambo fulani ikiwa tu tunakaribia kulielewa. Ili hali iwe kamili ya kujifunza kitu, tunahitaji kuweka vizuizi vyote vya msingi ili kinachofuata kitoshee juu ya hizo. Ikiwa bado hatuna vizuizi vya msingi vya maarifa tayari, hatutaweza kuongeza safu mpya ya maarifa kwenye muundo tunaunda. Sasa utaelewa kwa nini vitu wakati mwingine bonyeza tu. Ni wakati tuko katika eneo sahihi ili kujifunza. Tunayo maarifa yote yanayohitajika ili kuelewa hatua hiyo inayofuata ni nini. Pia tuna shauku ya kujifunza hatua inayofuata, kwa hiyo motisha ipo ya kuijifunza.
What can an educator do if the work that needs to be taught is not in the child's ZPD?
Kuna baadhi ya mambo unayoweza kufanya ili kumsaidia mwanafunzi ikiwa yuko karibu lakini bado hajawa tayari.
In fact, there are probably many options in each situation. You know your students and you will know best, but consider the particular student and the particular situation. Would it work to return to a previous step in the process? Might you revise the last few steps? Get the group to talk you through the work done in the past week. If that is not enough, how can you provide further support? Be creative. Do not embarrass the student by pointing out weaknesses. Just support and scaffold as best you can. Discussion option. If we have time, let's discuss some strategies for finding out what a student's ZPD is. And then let's think how we can help them reach it. If there is no time to do it now, please consider this in your own time. This is the end of this section of training. You are interested in educational philosophy, learning theories, and pedagogy, you can investigate further. Remember that good educators are lifelong learners and model curiosity for their students. This brings us to the end of this section of training. Thank you for learning with us today. You may join us on Facebook at Democratic Learning Services for training tips and resources.